Hey, it's John and Mike, brew-dudes.com, and today I got a cider. I have a cider to try, but this isn't any other cider. I've made cider every year for a couple of years now, and this year, now that I have a kegging system, I think I've finally cracked the cider code. Because I think I've started off with good juice. I think I've had good fermentation practices, but the thing about fermentation in cider is it's very hard to pinpoint exactly where you want to be. And if you bottle condition your cider, it's hard to get carbonated cider and back-sweeten or even just any kind of flavor adjustment that you have to make.
I'm getting excited where this is going.
So this time around, this year, because I kegged, I was able to ferment down to where I thought, I was tasting towards like the end of a 2-week period, and when I felt the taste was exactly where I wanted to be, just not carbonated, I stabilized it, as they say in the old cider making world.
In the biz.
Yeah, I actually used sulfites for the first time ever, and then some potassium sorbate as well to help preserve.
To kill the fermentation.
Yeah. And then I kegged it. So actually, there's the other thing that I did, because I was in a rush. Or I don't know, I just was impatient. I wasn't in a rush, I was just impatient. I got some sparkolloid, and that clarified that cider like mad.
Now you're.
I can see that camera.
Now you're coming along now.
Yeah. So that's the thing.
It's a whole new frontier of your cider making.
Because we just started this video just talking. I get too excited, but I still source the juice from the same place I always source it. This wonderful farm in Amesbury, Massachusetts, Cider Hill Farms, and the juice that you get from that place, I mean, unfermented, just out of this world. Really good stuff. It's funny. I always go through the line with 6 gallons of the stuff, like 5 gallons to ferment, and like 1 for
drinking.
Me. Yeah, for the drinking right away. And I love when the cashiers eye me like, "What are you doing with all that cider?" You know what I'm doing. So I got the juice from the same place, but I put in some used nutrient before fermentation, and I used just an American ale yeast, Safe Ale 05. I've used other ones in the past. I've used Nottingham yeast, and then like I read some articles that wine yeast are really taken off for people who really get into dry cider and stuff like that. But I've always stayed with beer yeast. I know that some people say like, there's like a beer aftertaste to it. I'll ask that question of you later, but I never picked that up. So I thought it was just fine, and I like the way that it ferments the juice, because it does leave some residual sweetness without me interfering with the final fermentation anyway. So really, when it was pretty much 95% the way there, that's when I intervened, killed the fermentation with a couple of additives, and then I cold crashed it and then put sparkolloid in it, and in a week everything just settled out and it was crystal clear. And then I transferred that to the keg and then carved it up, and I just put them in these bottles to bring over to your house today. So that is my big cider reveal for you, the audience, and for Michael. Sir, what do you think of what you're tasting here? I'm very happy about this, because the ciders in past, there's just been something off about them. Like, they weren't sweet enough. They didn't have like a good balance. Like, maybe they were really fizzy, but they lacked flavor. There's something good about it.
Do you know what the gravity was when you sort of shut it down?
It was right to, it was like 1.00, if not a little bit lower than that. I did not take an original gravity reading. I was just pouring all the jugs into that big fermenter, and away we went.
So would you call this semi-dry?
Yeah.
Yeah, because it's not really sweet, but
it's not. Yeah.
I think the fact that because you were able to sort of capture whatever was left before it really dried out to that 0.9 something range.
Yeah.
and sort of shut it down at that point, which could easily be done just by cold crashing as long as you were always kegging it or something, right? If people at home didn't want to use sulfates and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I've got no problem with that. I think it's great.
I just want something ready for Thanksgiving.
I think there's just something, maybe there's a nice interplay between this juice when it's fermented and still having some of the original juice as the sweetener, as the backing.
Yeah.
As opposed to back sweetening with table sugar or honey or something like that.
Yeah.
It's, maybe you get a nice blend versus the juice, but this is all in itself. So I think it's a pretty wonderful balance between being crisp and super drinkable, and the apple character is like fresh apple.
Yeah.
Like almost Granny Smith like. There's a little bit of like the acidity isn't the perceived acidity isn't bad, but it's isn't high, but it's bright and it's crisp. I get like almost a little bit of like a grape or like a green melon quality out of it too, which it's still 80% apple, but there's a little bit of some of the ester profile that came through.
I find it like there's a nice tannin in the aftertaste too, that I did not add anything to get that.
Yeah.
I know that a lot of
some
people,
apple skin there.
Yeah, I think a lot of people do put in some liquid tannins or like, dry powder tannin.
Yeah, you're right. When my mother used to make apple pie and she'd peel the apples, I would always eat the apple skins with just that little bit of, and that's what definitely can taste that there. It's really nice. The Fermentus US-05, I think that's it's a workhorse yeast, and I don't get any beery quality out of this at all.
I know that's the ding that I've read online, though.
I think it's dry and it tastes good. I don't know. I would bet if you put this in competition, in the cider competition, it'd be interesting to see if anybody
picked that up,
made that type of comment.
Yeah.
But I don't think it's there. I don't think it's very beery at all.
Well, I'll try it. I think that maybe now that I have the capability to carbonate without needing to add sugar and bottle condition, that maybe this is where I start using cider-specific yeast strains, like the ones that
start experimenting.
And see how that goes. Because I've used those in the past and I wasn't happy with them, and I've used champagne yeast and I've used other wine yeast strains and I wasn't happy with those either. But maybe this is where you start playing around with it.
You can definitely make good cider, totally serviceable cider, completely naturally fermented, bottle conditioned, just the way nature intended it. But it's great now to employ a little technology, a little new hardware that you've already invested in for beer making into this process, and now you can make something better. I remember it was either a podcast or an article I read. Drew Beecham talks about, I think in his cider book, he has all things cider or something. He always says in that book that great cider is made after the ferment. Yeah. Right? You can.
It's all about adding whatever.
His feeling is that you can almost have any quality apple juice, ferment it, and then it's what you do with it afterwards. In terms of either back sweetening or aging it or adding other flavors to it that makes something great. But this, that aside, this is just the juice, fermented, captured at the right time.
That's it, man.
It's good.
So just a little bit about these bottles. I don't know if you guys have seen these, but they're just Grolsch style, like high carbonation. They've got like a very strong cap to it.
Heavy.
Made by Otis Classic. I got this. You can find them on Amazon.com. But they also make some kind of whipped cream dispenser. But these are pretty sweet.
Where's the whipped cream?
That's. No.
We need apple pie to go with this.
I should have mentioned that. I was looking for Otis Classic on Amazon, and that was coming up. I was like, that's interesting.
Now I need some apple pie.
Grolsch style bottles. You can find them
these
on
are fun.
Amazon. 16 ounces. I got a bunch of them. And I was thinking, like, maybe when we get that sour beer going and we blend and then, highly carbonate.
Yep.
The other dream is like to cork them and then like do the wire cage and all that.
Cage,
we can give these a go as well. They're pretty,
they're heavy.
They are pretty heavy. They are strong. So.
Nice.
Cool. All right, that's what I got. What do you think?
I think it's great.
It was great to have cider on tap for Thanksgiving. That was pretty sweet.
That's pretty cool.
And even though there was plenty of things to drink, like Harvest Ale, and this, and maybe some wine.
I even ran out to the store and bought cider because It was Thanksgiving.
You
I just
needed
felt
it.
like I needed some cider. Yeah.
That's great.
So.
All right, so there you go. So I think the key to making cider at home is to keg it. That's what I learned. I mean, I just had really mixed results. Really mixed results with bottle carbonating.
And by mixed results, your ciders in the past have been pretty good.
Well, yeah, I
They've
didn't.
been good, like really good.
Not to humble brag, I did win a medal at the New England homebrewing competition for cider.
See?
Not like that's any big deal, but yeah, but I never was personally happy with them. I think that's the big deal, is that I never was like, this is great, and I really feel differently about this. I feel like this, I had it, like, you taste it as the fermentation ends, and then I package it, and I taste it, and I say to myself, yes, I finally fulfilled the promise of what I had.
Yeah.
Every other time I put it in the bottle and waited a couple of weeks, I open up and go, ah, ew, that's my reaction. Like, ah. Just didn't work out. So, all right, well, thanks a lot for watching. Appreciate your time, your effort, and please subscribe, like, and or comment below. I know that ciders aren't really for everybody. I know this is kind of like a home brewing beer type thing, but we're about fermentables, right?
Yeah.
Cheese?
Fermentable. Yeah, coming soon. Cheese.
CheeseDudes.com. All right, for John and Mike, brew-dudes.com. Brew on.
Cheers.